Welcome to the Tangent Gentlemen, where each week Scott and I start with a topic from the previous episode. Then we see where the conversation takes us. Along the way, we'll hit some tangents, and one of those tangents will become next week's episode. So tonight, Scott, we got pre-COVID versus post-COVID.
Yeah, this is going to be, you didn't mention in your opening we might have disagreements or something. You have a thing you say. And I thought, yeah, this week I'll be curious to see if there's disagreements this week. I don't know. I'm not sure.
One thing I thought about that you said last week was you were kind of, trying to decide whether it would be a good topic for the podcast. And you said, well, there's nothing that's the same. Do you remember saying that?
I do. Yeah.
So I thought, well, I don't know. I'd like to see. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that too, because we talked about what we were going to do was going to pick an area that we thought changed the most, and I kind of struggle with that. How did you do with it?
I did. Curiously enough, I think I have an answer though.
Okay. Do you want to start, or do you want me to?
Sure. I'll start. Sure.
Okay.
Curiously enough, I think the thing that has changed the most, and it also fits into my category of a significant improvement post-COVID to pre-COVID.
Okay.
That is exactly what we're doing now. Zoom meeting, remote technology. I mean, you think about how in a matter of, we were in schools at the time. Yeah. In a matter of weeks, Zoom meeting, Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, these just became common parlance. And everybody was doing it. I mean, 7-year-olds to college kids were doing it with glitches for sure. But you think about where that is now, how common it is, how it has changed. I would argue probably improved a lot of the quality of their lives, both socially and then also professionally. I mean, the number of people that are able to work remotely, which reduces their traffic and their stress, and allows them to have a little bit more of their family life, balance of life, quality of life balance. I think that's something that would not have happened, or it would have happened kicking and screaming if we didn't have, you got to do this.
Yeah, I agree. So, and what's interesting, that was my exact place I landed. Well, it was just remote everything, but then it got me thinking, as I thought about it, it got me thinking about, you talked about how it's changed people's life and probably work-life balance and things like that. It kind of quickly took me into just the convenience changes, like the shifts in everyday living, more geared towards convenience that kind of happened during COVID. Like you were talking last week. You said you and your family pick up food way too often. You can go just about anywhere and pick up a meal now.
Yeah,
you can have your groceries brought out to your car, and just there's a convenience aspect to everything now. I think I think people just expect choices when they have something they need to do.
Right. Yeah.
So
no, I think so too. It's funny. One of the other ones that I was putting in my positive, and this is a funny one, and it doesn't really pertain to me, but I'm not like shaming my wife, but she loves to get a cocktail when we go out to dinner.
Yeah.
And it takes her hours to drink it. And so it frustrates me when we go to a restaurant because everyone will be finished. This just happened just the other day. We were finished, and she was a third of the way into her drink. And we sit there for a while, and I get another iced tea, and we wait, and she drinks. But now you can get drinks to go. And I don't think that was a thing before COVID.
Was it against the law before COVID, I think? Unless you had a certain type of, license or something. I mean, I don't think you could, you couldn't finish your meal and ask them to put the rest of your beer in a plastic cup.
Right.
I mean, I know
but she gets to go, like there's a couple Mexican places that we like, taco places. She always gets to go sangria. And she'll nurse that thing for 4 hours.
So you just mentioned,
at home.
You just mentioned Mexican restaurants. That could quite possibly be the most positive change with COVID individual salsa bowls.
Okay. All right. I haven't experienced that, but I mean, we just get salsa. So I don't. Yeah.
Oh, so you haven't experienced individual? They don't bring them out. Everybody has their own bowl of salsa. I thought that was like at every Mexican restaurant now.
Oh, you mean in the restaurant?
Yeah, in the restaurant. Yeah. Used to, they would bring out a bowl of chips and one bowl that everybody would dip into, and now everybody has their own.
I'm trying to think. No, the last time we went to a place, it was just one bowl of hot and one bowl of mild.
Maybe they're changing back.
Yeah, we didn't get the single serve bowl.
Yeah, I like that. I think that came about with with COVID.
Yeah, those were two of mine that were definitely better. Like life is better because of COVID. So, you got any other?
Yeah, another area that I thought about that seems like a pretty big change is just like just a general feeling of fear and anxiety, maybe with people. Like seems like personal spaces. Like personal spaces a little larger now, and people seem to be more cautious with newborn babies, and there's a longer time before people get to hold the babies, and if you got everybody's coming over to your house for Christmas, there's almost at least one family member that cancels because they're not feeling well.
Yeah, that's true. And I have noticed. Yeah, that's true. I have a couple friends that just. Oh, if we're hosting a thing and I'll say, oh yeah, well, so-and-so's got the sniffles. Oh, well, we're not going to come over then.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I didn't say they, typhoid Mary. I mean, they're just got a cold or allergies or whatever. I mean,
but that's accepted now, and I don't think that's good. I think
it might be accepted, but I'm not going to lie. For me, it's kind of a BS thing to say.
Well, we're old, man. I think I was just getting ready to say, to me, it seems like it's hit younger people harder. And
I see.
And I kind of feel like, and I kind of felt at first like, I mean, you're probably the same way, but, I was coming up in my work life. If you didn't feel well, you sucked it up and you went to work, and nobody even thought anything of it. You might tell your kids in the classroom, oh, don't come up to the desk today. I got fever.
Yeah, I'm feeling great today, guys.
But now, you better not go to work if you're not feeling well.
Speaking of that, I always found like when I went to work and I wasn't feeling well, those were like the best behaved days for the kids. Like they didn't like, it wasn't like, sharks with blood in the water. It was the exact opposite.
Well, that's because they liked and respected you. Yeah.
Calm down now. Mr. Snyder's not feeling well. And I used to get, I don't know, we worked together a lot for these years, but I remember when I was teaching more around Valentine's Day and Halloween, I would get really bad laryngitis, which when you're a teacher, that's not a good thing. Yeah. And I would feel fine, but I sounded like I smoked 5 packs of cigarettes that day.
Well, that's a big change too. Yeah, if you go in there now and you're talking like that, I mean, it's a little different now. You turn your head a little different now when you hear somebody sneeze behind you or cough behind you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I do feel, there is a change, like just a general, it's a level of anxiety is a little bit higher, and it does seem like it's more with younger people. I don't know. I don't know if that's really the case.
I don't see that. What I saw that initially when during the time period with my sons, but now when I say something about, oh, you might want to get checked out, you might have COVID, my son's like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. Nobody cares. The people are over it now. They're over it now. Nobody cares.
Do people still get COVID?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's going through. Was that a rhetorical, or are you being serious? So.
Well, you don't hear about it as much, or I don't. But I am in North Dakota now.
I could make a really mean statement, but I won't.
Let's hear it, man.
Well, no, I mean, I heard measles went away too, but that's another story. But my mother-in-law's in a facility, in a memory care facility, and they've got COVID running around the facility. And which actually gets me to another thing that has changed. I remember years ago, I would see these videos or, footage, news stories or whatever, and they would be these Asian cities, and you would see all these people wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, that's just so odd. Like, not bad, but just odd. Like, that's really odd. And now when I see someone wearing a mask, it generally does. I don't even respond to it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that went through Asia?
Well, there was a bird flu, an Asian bird flu. And there was an N1.
SARS?
What was it? SARS.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was it? The Hunan. I think it was called the Hunan virus.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when my older son was probably in 2nd or 3rd grade. He that was a thing going on, that virus was circulating pretty intense.
Yeah, those masks might also just be for the smog.
Well, right, sure, that might be true too. Yeah. So, and even then, I mean, and then of course we can get into one of my other things that is actually a lot better, which has become, like so many things, sadly politicized. The development of mRNA technology. mRNA-based technology has accelerated so fast as a result of COVID. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the opportunities there are just so widespread and so significant for our society. But it's become so politicized that, it's so dangerous or it's some nonsense.
So tell me, somebody that doesn't fully understand, what's the difference between that and, say, an old school polio vaccination?
So my understanding is it goes like this. So when you got an old vaccine, like if you got the flu vaccine in 2019, you got the viruses that were the flu, but they were somehow rendered inactive. But they were big molecules, big virus molecules, a whole virus, a whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what mRNA technology does is it breaks it down to the individual compound, the messenger RNA, which codes for the active site of the molecule that virus has. So you're getting a virus that's based upon the blueprint instead of getting, and then what that does is your body then responds to that blueprint and says, hey, I recognize this mRNA strand, or I recognize this DNA. mRNA makes DNA. So and then this is what I don't know. I don't know if it recognizes the mRNA strand or it recognizes the DNA strand and says, I'm going to build defenses against this.
Okay.
And so now you are vaccinated. You have the ability to fight that thing off if you see it. It used to be you actually had to have the virus and your body would develop defenses to that whole virus. But the mRNA strands.
If you got the flu vaccine, then, and a strand, you were infected by a strain. Is it a strain or a strand of flu?
Strain, I think.
A strain of flu that wasn't included in that vaccination, you're going to get sick. Right? If you've got the, what is it?
mRNA.
So if you've got
messenger
that,
RNA.
Can your body develop, can you be immunized against a different strain of that?
Only if they share that mRNA string.
Okay.
The mRNA is it's like the code. It's the recipe. It is literally the string of molecules, they're called nucleotides, the string of molecules that organism uses to make copies of its own DNA.
So why is that better than shooting a dead COVID virus in your bloodstream?
Because there are lots of things in the COVID virus that you could respond to in a lot of different ways. Whereas the mRNA, You're just responding to a very unique sequence. It's sort of like, I don't know this to be true, but this is what I think is true. It's sort of like when you take an aspirin, well, people don't take aspirin anymore, but whatever. When you take
our patients still take aspirin, don't they?
They do. Yeah, that's true. But let's go general. When you take a ibuprofen or one of those, okay, you take it because you hurt your ankle, okay. Your body doesn't know to send this drug to your ankle.
Yeah.
That drug, what that drug does, it just gets way into the weeds, but okay, your body makes these molecules called prostaglandins. And when you have an injury, prostaglandins come in and they help, and they do lots of things to help restore that injury. But one of the things they also do is they make that site swell up. So you get a lot of inflammation. Mm-hmm. So when you take a ibuprofen, NSAID, it says, hey, you know what? We're going to stop prostaglandin synthesis for a little bit. But the thing is, it stops prostaglandin synthesis everywhere in your body. So it's not specific to that site.
Okay.
Wherever you broke your ankle. So for example, you make prostaglandins that also line your stomach for protection. So that's one of the reasons why if you take too much ibuprofen, you start to get irritated stomach. Yeah. Because you've destroyed the protection in your stomach. You're not taking the ibuprofen for your stomach, you're taking it for your ankle. So the mRNA, my understanding is it's much more targeted for the functional part of that creature, the virus that you're trying to kill, as opposed to all of the parts of the virus, which may or may not have anything to do with the virus reproducing itself.
So
does that make sense?
Yeah. Why do you think so many people are scared of that? So just because it's new?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
I think people got sick for a lot of reasons around COVID, the time of COVID, and everyone attributed it to, whatever their political beliefs wanted them to attribute it to. They didn't look at the preponderance of evidence that billions of people got COVID vaccinations and were fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, some people got sick who also got a COVID vaccination, and they want to blame the COVID vaccination.
Yeah.
So no, I think mRNA technology is advanced. And that's one thing that's really frustrating to me, because I think that's a true feather in the cap of American scientists around COVID. And it was never celebrated the way,
that all came from the United States.
I think mostly did. Yeah, I can't say absolutely, but
let's take credit for it.
We'll take credit for it. We did it. We're the ones.
All right, let me ask you about this, because I think this might be a post-COVID thing, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I do feel like the personal space thing is post-COVID. I think it has gotten, where people give, you're out in a space of strangers. You give people a little more space, I think. I don't know.
So are you talking just like waiting in line at the ATM?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Okay. Speaking of that, what's up with, you still see these daggone 6-foot stickers around everywhere.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I mean, they're everywhere. Like, why don't
space?
Isn't it time to take those up? But I don't know. Maybe that's the new expectation. We give everybody 6 feet.
I have a thought. I'll let you finish that, but I want to get back to this whole personal space idea. But okay, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. I'll remember this one, because this is
this is just, to me, it's just the opposite. I think, and I don't know that this is related to COVID, but I think the lack or the loss of civility has also coincided with, which runs counter to what you're saying.
Well,
I respect your personal space, but I'm going to be rude to you. I just feel like people are so rude now. And I know that probably makes me sound like an old man. But it just really is, like, how hard is it to just be nice to somebody? Open the door, say thank you. Let's let a car in front of you while you're waiting on the merge lane.
Well, I think I think that might be more of a one of our previous episodes. That might be more of a social media thing. I don't know. You know,
Okay.
I don't know why people feel so. I don't know. I guess sometimes it's a good thing too, though, that you can voice your opinion in the face of anybody else. But you're just talking about blatant rudeness, right?
I was talking about, it's like just had this experience a couple years ago. We were in Lexington, which is, south town where University of Kentucky is. And it was, I don't know what was going on. It was a college town, something was happening. It wasn't like a big game day or whatever, but traffic merged into from two lanes to one lane very quickly. And I realized that as this car in front of me was about halfway over, and I started to let them in, and they came all the way over, and then they let other people in. And as I was going forward, I said, "Hey, can we all just work together on this?" And this guy like rolls down his window, who's like across from me, and it's like, "Hey, that's not my problem." And I'm like, it's not really anybody's problem. We're all trying to go from 2 to 1 here. What the hell, buddy? I mean,
where did this happen?
It was in Lexington.
In
Lexington, yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered.
It was just weird. It was just weird to me. I was just like, he's like, "That's not my problem." I'm like, well, okay, technically, I mean, it's only not your problem because you're 3/4 of a car length in front of me. I don't know. It was a very very weird dynamic. And probably completely unrelated to COVID, but it definitely runs against the idea that we've become more, but that's not personal space. So I guess it's not really related. Sorry. But you sound like that old guy. Get off my lawn.
But I think that's more an overpopulation thing.
Interesting. Well, of course you say that because you live in North Dakota.
Well, I'm just you don't see that sort of thing here in North Dakota. I mean, everybody is very friendly and they're courteous on the streets. But I think sometimes there just be too many people concentrated in one area, and tempers might run a little high. I don't know.
See, the curious thing for me is when we've had had a conversation like this a lot. I really like big cities, and I know you don't.
I can't. Yeah.
And I don't find, when I go to New York or Chicago, I don't really find them to be especially discourteous or rude.
No, they're not. They're just indifferent, very indifferent.
But it's to me, it's back to what I talked about. EVs, they're very efficient. It's very efficient moving around all the people.
I mean, when that light turns green and the little man turns white and there's 75 people on a street corner having to cross the street, you better be efficient or you're going to get ran over.
Yeah. But just everything. Like when you go to a deli, keep along moving, know your order, get up there, order, move on,
Yeah.
Don't sit there, I don't know, what if I got it on the side? I mean, no, just order. Get what you want and move on. Come on.
That reminds me of the Soup Nazi episode in Seinfeld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was supposed to be a real place, wasn't it? Based on a real place?
I think it was, yeah. I had this experience like that, not in New York, it was in Philadelphia. First time I went to Philadelphia, and I was all excited to get a Philly cheesesteak, and I was I'm going to get this Philly cheesesteak sandwich. And this is when Aaron and I we were dating or first married, I can't remember. And she was from New York, so she had a, big city swagger that I didn't really have.
I didn't know she's from New York.
Yeah, she was born in Queens.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so we go up to order, and the guy's like, "What do you want? What do you want?" And he's just like barking at me, and I was like, "I just want a cheesesteak." And do you want what? And he's having all these questions, and I was like, "Yeah," and I get it, and it was great. And we sat there and ate. And as we were sitting there, I noticed that most people came in, they ate, and they were out in like 10 minutes. And this guy was just turning them over, And then once the crowd settled down and we got through to lunch, he came over and was talking to us, and he was really nice. You guys aren't from here. Where are you from? And it just really made me realize the guy's not rude.
Yeah.
He's just efficient. He's got to get through the lunch crowd.
Yeah, he knows on lunch hour he's going to have 200 people come through there in 45 minutes.
Yeah, and he doesn't need some hillbilly from Kentucky. I don't know. What do I want? All right. So back to your point.
Okay. So I had one thing I've been thinking about, and I don't know if this is a post-COVID thing or not, but the nose in our phones thing. People being so drawn into their phones when you're out in public.
Wow.
And the reason, one reason I think it might be COVID related is because, and we can ask Chris about this when he comes on at the end of the episode, because he's still working in the school system. But I went back and worked part time in the high school, and you could see, you know, our school was a cell phone school. You could have cell phones on your time, which one of those was lunch, and in the cafeteria, you know, you think about probably everybody when they think about a high school cafeteria, that's the time you got 20 minutes sitting, you know, BS with your friends, and it's loud and it's noisy and everybody is full of energy, and there's just a buzz in the whole cafeteria. 400 kids in this place eating and just having a hell of a time. And when I went back to work, a large majority, I would say 3/4, are sitting there with their nose in their phone rather than interacting with their peers in the cafeteria. And it wasn't like that, you know, I was in high schools a lot pre-COVID, and it wasn't like that in the schools where they even had access to cell phones, but it was when we came back to school. And so I was wondering if that's a post-COVID thing. But we also were in a school district that was closed for longer than most any school district in the country too.
Right. So I wonder also, a thought I just had is that a byproduct of what I said is a positive? The Zoom meeting, like we've Zoom meeting, COVID, Google Meet, Zoom meetings, Microsoft Team, whatever, normalized this as real human interaction.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking to a screen, you're responding in real time to my questions or my thoughts. And so therefore that's what human interaction is. Or that's an acceptable or a reasonable facsimile of human interaction. We normalize that. So if you put that into your phone, I don't know. That's a really good point. It's a good question.
I would be willing to bet that a lot of those kids on their phone, and a lot of adults in a large social setting even, are probably texting and interacting with somebody in that same space.
Yeah, that's always weird to me, but I agree. You're right. I see that. Like people are texting, and like I've been places and people do that, like a group of 8 people, and person A is texting person G in the group. And I'm just like, what the hell? They're right there. Just talk to them. I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not, I was a very late cell phone adopter, and I'm still kind of, I don't know. I say I'm anti-cell phone, but my kids give me grief about it because I will own it. The only time I'm too much involved in my cell phone is an hour before first pitch or kickoff.
That's where DraftKings is.
I'm trying to get my wagers lined up, my investments. I'm going to get my investments lined up. And I do. And it's funny, my kids have called me on it. Because, I mean, we had a very strict no phones at meal time policy in our house, whether we were in the house or we were at a restaurant. The kids knew it. I mean, it was like no questions asked. You did not get your phone out.
Yeah, we're the same way. I still can't understand, but you know, you always think, man, I'm starting to sound like an old man again, but I don't understand how people go out somewhere and spend time with people you love at a dinner table and have your phone out and looking at your phone instead. You know, it's I don't
know.
But I mean,
I don't know. I can tell you when my wife's like, you know, an hour into that sangria, I mean, you're kind of like, okay, I got to make a bet. We talked about everything I talk about. They just dropped this promotion.
Yeah.
So,
but we do have to have something stimulating our brain all the time. It seems like now. I mean, do you feel like sometimes do you ever feel like you wish you weren't looking at your cell phone so much?
Yeah. Well, like today. Okay. So for example, today I was working in the yard. I was doing some just planting and cleaning up, you know, some beds and whatever. And I was looking through my phone. I'm like, oh, what I want to listen to while I'm working in the yard. You know, there's like 3 or 4 podcasts or music or whatever. I was thinking about it. And I said, you know what? The answer is nothing. I'm just going to work in the yard. Yeah. I'm just going to go out, you know, I know that sounds corny as anything, but dig in the dirt.
Oh, no, I totally get it.
Work in the yard.
I do it all the time.
And just work in the yard.
I do that. Yeah. I do it all the time. And people around me are like, you know, how can you work out here up, upstairs in the attic for 7 hours just listening to the thoughts inside your head? I said, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't do it often, but I do it. So do you know this? This musician Jason Isbell?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a great line in one of his songs. I think it might be something more than free. I'm not sure. And he says, "I'm trying not to live inside my telephone."
Yeah,
that's a line in one of his songs, and I just love that line. Yeah. I think that's just because I think that's sadly it's a struggle. It is a struggle that we have as humans. That
little thing is now very entertaining.
Yeah,
and it's very good at quickly identifying what you're entertained by.
Yeah.
And feeding you more and more of it.
You know me, I love trivia. I mean, I love trivia, whatever. I try to play pub trivia once a week. I just love trivia in general. Knowing weird stuff, learning weird stuff, whatever. And nothing annoys me more when we're out somewhere and somebody will say, "Oh, what was that episode on Seinfeld? Remember, it was about the guy and he had a restaurant and and you're like trying to come up with soup Nazi and you just, you can't come up with it. And somebody pulls out their phone and they look it up. Like that infuriates me. I'm like, we could have a really good conversation about 9 Seinfeld episodes right now.
You know why I'm laughing so hard? Because 99.9% of people do that. That's the first place they're going to go.
It just infuriates me. Can we just figure it out? Can we just talk about it, figure it out, come to it on our own?
Well, now Cindy and I do talk about that all the time, and she'll say sometimes, "We're not going to look this up. We got to remember this. We got to remember the name of that movie." And we're like, we can't remember it.
Well, you shared. That's hard for you because you can't remember a movie or a book you read last week. So.
No, I really can't. I thought about other trivial things too, though. But what do you think? Do you think the phone thing is that a COVID thing at all or not?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to put that on COVID because I think it was happening before. I mean, I remember fighting with kids and arguing with kids about their phone use. I mean, it's like it's a drug. I mean, it's like a drug. It is so rewarding, so psychologically rewarding to just get your phone out and interact with the ethos and think you're connected and you're not.
Yeah.
But you think you are. You feel like you are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, a lot of those, a lot of the people at Google and Facebook and all those places, they don't let their kids have phones.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot.
So just out of curiosity, I'm not shaming, when did your kids get phones? What age, you remember?
Well, no, my kids were at the beginning of cell phones. So it wasn't really a struggle for us because really nobody really had cell phones. But they had them in high school. I can't remember if they had, I think Tia might have had one in middle school. But no, I mean, that's a real thing now. When do you start? But, that's another thing, too. There's been some shifts, too, because, at our school, the reason I pushed at our school to allow cell phones is because we were having so many problems with taking cell phones from kids during the school day from the parents. The parents were like, no, my kid's got to have cell phone. And now I think that's kind of shifting from what I hear. I think parents are kind of supporting, maybe cell phones don't belong in school now. But it's my way of thinking was always cell phones aren't going anywhere. They're part of our life now. They're not going anywhere. Right. So we have a responsibility to teach kids in school. School is responsible ways to use them. And it's just like anything else. Your best teachers in the school had the least problems with cell phones. They set consistent rules and they were consistent on enforcing them, and kids followed them.
Right. Or they made ways, they utilized ways, they found ways to utilize the phones. Yeah. And there's what the phone brings to the table in the context of their lesson. Look this up.
Yeah, you got a computer there. Yeah, I think they're very, very valuable in the classroom, but the teacher needs to control how that's done,
Yeah, my wife was, Erin, when she taught math up until she retired in 22, and there's an app called Desmos, which is it basically puts a graphing calculator in every kid's hands. And it does amazing work you can put equations. I mean, the ways you and I used to figure stuff out, way back, you remember continuous functions and discontinuous and all this stuff. Like, you just put it in the calculator, this app, and it'll graphs it for you, and it tells you where it's a step or what, all these different things. And I'm like, I mean, they don't have to do it by hand and like take the derivative. Yeah. And she's like, no, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But she very much utilized that as you want to have this app on your phone, or you can draw it by hand, old school, which nobody wanted to do that, of course. But you know, to me, that's an example of a teacher utilizing a phone for what it can be. Now,
okay, so what about AI? What about AI and research papers? Should schools learn how to integrate AI into writing research papers?
You know, naively, ignorantly, I want to say they need to find a way to detect, because, like, you know, to monitor what's real. Like, they, you know, that's what I used to say. I'm not
saying, I don't think it should be allowed that somebody says, write me a 10-page research paper on this topic and spit it out. But I mean, use it as a resource to help research.
I mean, I guess, but I don't use it, so I don't know, but isn't there a reasonable percentage of false and misinformation and failure rate?
Well, yeah. And that's one of the things that I think schools need to start teaching kids. I mean, that's, you know, we don't want to have, there's too many people right now that believe the last thing they read. And, you know, a lot of times it's not true, but, and, you know, it's pretty easy to filter through what's not true and true. If you've got some, what would that be called? I mean, it's not, even if you're not knowledgeable on the topic, you can research something on the internet, and because you're starting to gather this information from, you know, reputable sites that's consistent, you start building, okay, you know, this is probably true, and you can look into that aspect more. You know, you kind of.
But see that, so that idea, I think what you're getting at, that sort of evolution of understanding.
Yeah.
I think that is I don't know. I felt like for the latter, like the last 2 or 3 years of my career, I felt like that was a missed opportunity that schools had post-COVID. Because COVID, the version of classroom during COVID that, like I said, was Zoom-based or, you know, whatever format, you know, kids, you started to see teachers utilize more like YouTube as like a source of information, because not everybody had a textbook and you could use different sources. And this, to me, this is where I look at it in this day and age when I want to do, I mean, whatever. I was working on a lot of home improvement projects in the past 3 weeks that I don't do that often, or some of which I've never done before. Mm-hmm. What did I do?
Yeah.
I went and watched a bunch of YouTube videos.
Yeah, don't we
and
all?
I started getting to a point of saying, okay, I now understand how to do this project. When I got into it, I discovered, oh, well, this isn't like anything in the videos, any of the videos I've seen. I need to dive deeper. I shared with you, a few months ago, a friend asked me to rebuild a watch, repair a watch. Mm-hmm. And I literally took a watch apart based upon watching and learning from YouTube videos.
Yeah. I did that with my parents' cuckoo clock that hadn't worked for a few years and got it working.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that you can do that. And so I think that was I don't know if it was exactly a byproduct of COVID and COVID learning, but it coincided greatly with COVID learning. And I feel like that's something that schools, I don't know, it kind of bugged me when we were in the middle of it. And, you know, my job was somewhat monitoring teachers' lessons in classrooms, that they were still going on the printed word as the source of information. And that's what kids are supposed to derive their learning from. And I felt like that was somewhat a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a post-COVID thing that I don't know. I mean, I'm not in schools now, so I don't know what's happening. We have a mutual friend, Brian Quillen, who works he's very much in a very tech-based school setting now.
Yeah.
And he's doing cyber security stuff. And I mean, his stuff is very much.
But he's always been, he's always been on the cutting edge of that from the start.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it is something, you know, that's, Oh gosh, so I mean, we could talk about the schools just have so many changes that need to happen.
Well, right.
But that's
and it's hard. I mean, it's a tough job.
So I made a list before we have Chris come in here. I made a list of, I guess, somewhat trivial changes that's happened. I told you about the salsa bowls. I like that.
Okay.
Another one I like is...
It might be a North Dakota thing. I don't know that I see that a whole lot. But
another thing I like is deboarding a plane. You know, with COVID, it started, you had to go row by row from the front to the back. You know, used to it was a free-for-all whenever an airplane got to the gate and people would push from the back to the front. And now it's much more orderly.
Oh, that has not been my experience at all.
Really?
Oh, no, not at all. I just flew back in February and not at all.
Huh, okay. Well,
everybody's standing up to push and, you're behind me. And in my standard response, if somebody pushes by me, I'm saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were more important than me.
You don't say that.
I do say that.
Do you? Yeah. That's great. And you haven't been punched yet. That's good.
I have not been punched yet.
You're gonna be,
I'm sorry. You're more important to me. I realize. Go ahead.
You're going to be one of those airplane videos. The other one, and I don't know if this is COVID or not. This might just be another technology thing, but QR codes for everything. You know, you don't get a menu everywhere now. You get QR codes.
That's a great point. Yeah. That is a great point. What's your take on that? Are you offended when you go somewhere and you got to pull up your phone? Again, you got to pull up your phone to get the restaurant menu.
No, because menus are the dirtiest things. They're almost as dirty as public restroom sinks.
Right. Of course you think it's a great idea. But it forces you to get out your phone. You got to have your phone at dinner now.
Well, yeah.
So, okay.
And then, we talked about pickup. Fist bumps. Handshakes are less of a thing now.
Yeah. It's weird though, because you're right. But I gotta say, there's a few people I know that they're too friendly with the fist bump, and it's weird. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Can't we just shake hands once and be done with it, and not fist bump 3 times in the course of our interaction?
But one thing that has changed back though is all of the hugging circles I'm in, all the groups that I'm with that like to hug, they're back to hugging again.
Yeah, that's true.
Hand sanitizer and wipes everywhere. Those little hand sanitizers on stands. I mean, you can almost find hand sanitizer anywhere you go.
Yeah. Which, I'm very anti-hand sanitizer. I don't know if you know this about me.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, gosh, why don't we try to make some more super bugs?
That's really weird because I guess you could argue not washing your hands is.
Yeah. Why is it weird? It's the same. It's the same train of thought.
You're right.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It is.
But okay.
Yes, right down the same train. Sneeze shields. Sneeze shields. You still have to see plexiglass in some banks on the counters.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you last time I actually went into a bank. So
and then we already talked about 6 foot stickers. Those crack me up.
Yeah, they're very very strange.
They're still everywhere.
Yeah, I was at Lowe's, the Home Improvement Center Lowe's the other day, and they had them. They still had them. I'm like, really? I got to be 6 foot behind this guy? Okay, I'll stand back here. And anyway, I stood back there, and they left. The employee left. I'm like, I'm still here. I need help still. We were all the way back there. I didn't know. It's kind of funny. Yeah.
You ready to have Chris join us?
Yeah, this ought to be good.
Yeah, well, Chris come in. I'm curious to see what he thinks about cell phones, nose in the cell phone. Is that more prevalent post-COVID? I know it's more prevalent. Is it attributed to COVID, the time that we spent so much time by ourselves?
Yeah, I think it's just coincidental, personally. I think it's just the nature of how cell phones have become so common and ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They're ubiquitous.
What's up, Christopher?
What's going on, guys? Good talk.
How you doing?
Good talk.
Yeah.
I'm doing well. I think Brad made me laugh a few times, but my favorite quote was right at the end when he said, I think menus are almost as dirty as bathroom sinks. I mean, just knowing the guy, that just cracks me up. And then he said, all my hugging friends are back to hugging again. And I thought of my family. I know he's thinking of the Johnstones because we're some huggers. So it was enjoyable. let me before we continue on to this, I just got back tonight from going to dinner with some colleagues, and we sat down. There was 10 of us, and the waitress came out to give us our checks and announced before she started ringing us up, guys, I just want you to know that there's already a tip on the check.
There you
go. If you want to tip a little extra, I'd love that. And I should have asked her. Let me ask you a question. Did you happen to listen to a podcast called Tales of Gentlemen last week? Because that's a brilliant thing to say. So the funny thing is, I'm like,
20%
there were 10 of you. There were 10 of you. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but how about her announcing that? Like, I was great. So I threw in an extra 7% and all was good. But I just thought that was cool. So let's get back to pre-COVID, post-COVID. Just a few stats here. Before COVID, 5% of people worked remotely. Post-COVID, 25%.
Is that it? I thought it'd be more than that.
I bet it was higher at one point, but it stabilized back down to 25%. Food prices, like in the groceries, up 35%.
Oh, wow.
Menu prices in restaurants, 38% increase. So things are definitely more expensive. I'd say that's a little bit outpacing inflation, just throwing that tidbit in there. And one other thing, let me throw this in. You guys were talking about kids in school. You were talking about, how we encouraged the phones out because you got to learn to handle your phone. We need to teach them when it's appropriate, when it's not. Let me tell you, so now the state of Kentucky, this is the first year in the law where they're not allowed to have, the state law is they're not allowed to have phones in the classroom. So I can tell you this, pre-law, I thought as an administrator, look, our kids are just super well behaved. Our teachers are managing stuff. Now, maybe the rigor isn't always where we want it, but the kids are well behaved, compliant, and willing to work. In goes the law. So now we have this law this year, and we realized that they weren't compliant. They were probably on their phone. Mm-hmm. Because this year, in the first 10 weeks, not even a full trimester, the APs worked more referrals, like just little classroom stuff, than we did the entire year last year in the first 10 weeks.
Wow.
It comes to find out, we just really needed to work on some tier 1 intervention strategies there in the classroom because the phones have dulled the skills of a lot of teachers because you didn't have to do it. A kid that was going to act up would get their phone out and you would never know they're not focused on what they're doing. So I think that was a discovery we've had this year on the effect of phones.
I wonder if it's a brain thing too. That kind of reminds me, you remember, so dimming the lights and pulling the shades and things like that, would make kids better behave. But the reason was it was dulling their brains. Natural light and it is stimulating to the brain. So I wonder if it's kind of the same with cell phones.
I think it gets into that bigger question, and we'll come up with that as that was one of our tangents that we're going to talk about here shortly, as with cell phones. But it definitely, it locks you in. Time flies by. And what the addiction is may vary, but man, the difference in when they were not allowed in the classroom, the teacher literally made them put them up. That's a lot. That's a lot of referrals worked in the first 10 weeks. And it's made, and our number one area of misbehavior is the classroom. And that was usually not the case as far as referrals go. And that's continued throughout the school year. Just paper cuts, nothing big. It's been a great school year behavioral wise. But yeah, that's definitely
just
real.
More classroom disruptions type thing. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's just little things, just total little classroom disruptions. Tier 1 strategies not really being implemented, not in place. The transitions are bad, or you don't have policies for this or that. So we've actually worked on that in a few of our academy meetings as far as trying to address some Tier 1 strategies, especially some younger teachers where cell phones has always bailed out the lack of maybe some classroom management that you've had because of the cell phone. And I think that's really started post-COVID. To me, that's a post-COVID thing that I don't remember it being such before 2020, the middle of that 2020 school year.
Yeah.
Or 2019, 2020. But yeah, definitely I think a change, and not just because of the law, but because of, of what's been available as far as phones go.
Yep. All right, what's our tangents, man?
I got an idea about how we grade. Let's grade the podcast.
Okay. All right.
So how about we grade? I'll make this statement. The world is better off now than it was pre-COVID, and you grade that statement. So you disagree?
Like on agreement or disagreement?
So if you're like that statement is an A+, so you're 100% correct.
We're grading the world as it is now.
So yes, the statement is this: the world is better now than it was pre-COVID overall. Now that's my statement. If you're 100% agreement, then you're going to give it an A. If you totally think I screwed it up, so there you go. You can grade.
That is tough.
Because it's both. I realize that. So I don't know if we're going to get an A or a U here.
Oh man. You go, Scott.
So, okay, I needed some qualifier. In general, or as a result of the COVID pandemic and associated events?
Yeah, I think one of the things you all said in the very beginning is that it's hard to pin down before COVID and after COVID because it's everything. So I think you're just summarizing life in general. All the things that have happened from the QR codes to the fist pound to the, you guys talked about working remotely as a good thing. I kind of see it as a bad thing. Like, not all bad, but, like bringing humans together and having to work out problems or sit beside somebody or sit across the hall from somebody for years and actually have to have interactions like that part of it. So overall, it might be socially, it might be whatever you want, but overall, my statement is the world is better now than it was pre-COVID.
I'm ready. All right, and I'm basing C as they are exactly the same, okay? And I'm going to say that it is a B-. And the reason I'm putting it towards a little better now, even with a tendency to lean kind of towards nostalgia, I think, of the old times because I am getting old. But I'm going to say it's a little better now because I think there are many more choices in just about any area. Everybody's got choices, like we're talking about with the grocery store, with just there's choices. Work.
Yeah, I guess I would be in agreement. C+, B-, because I think it's like anything else. When we got televisions, people said, "Oh, it's the ruin of society." Nobody's going to read a book again. But yet we found out in some ways television was an amazing thing.
You can go back before that with the printing press. Books were going to run society.
Right, because the people who shouldn't be reading are suddenly going to get access to information. I think things are better. I think we found ways to deal with, some horrific events, and we figured out ways to do that. Did we do it as well as I would have liked? Did we address all the things that I think and my friends who work in the medical profession said we should have? No. But I think we did I think it's better.
I feel like I got to say one thing, though, and it did come up in the podcast a little bit. I do worry just about, I feel like there's just a general level of fear, or I'm going to say anxiety that's a little higher now than it was pre-COVID about a lot of things. But
I guess there's part of me that would argue that's good.
Yeah.
Like you should be afraid of a global pandemic that kills millions of people.
Yeah, but should you be afraid to let your mother hold your newborn baby?
Maybe.
No. I think going through, if you really get into the whole COVID thing from the beginning when you knew nothing, the more you learned, I think the less fear that you have, right? Eventually you got to the point you realize, I'm probably going to be fine, but I don't want my 86-year-old grandmother to catch this. So as you learned what COVID was, the more knowledge, the less fear. Honestly, you say more anxiety, but Brad, I really don't feel any different. I don't mind being in a crowded room. I'm back to pre-COVID, Chris.
I am too.
0%.
I am too. I'm not talking about myself, or I'm not talking about everybody, but I think there's probably more, than there. And I didn't look it up. I should have looked it up if there's like more diagnosed anxiety pre-COVID and post-COVID. Well, but I would guess there probably is.
Think about it. If you had anxiety issues before COVID, this is just another one. So, if you already had anxiety issues, it didn't help.
Well, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, what you started to say, Chris. And I this is informed mostly by my friends. I mean, I have two friends, one who was an ER doctor during COVID and one who was responsible for overseeing medical facilities in New York City. So millions of people. And they are incredibly smart, conscientious people. Mm-hmm. And they worked really hard to have as few people die as possible.
Yeah.
And now, in retrospect, you could say, oh, well, they overreacted. Well, the fact is, people were dying every day around them. Mm-hmm. And they weren't exactly sure why. Was it because they were overweight? Was it because they had a heart condition? Was it because they got COVID? And they got a strain of COVID that was new. And I mean, nobody knew. And so when you don't know, you make the best decision that you can. And some of those decisions were excessive. You can't, I mean, we truly did not have to stay out of school as long as we did. But I don't think it was a bad decision that we did, personally.
At the time.
At the time. Considering how we and I got into this argument with a friend of mine at the time. Considering how we transport kids in our school system and how many kids are on a bus together for how long, I mean, that's a petri dish. That is a exchange system.
We didn't have in-person schooling, though, for over a year in JCPS.
I know. Yeah.
That was too long. Way too long.
Yeah.
It could have ended way before that.
I think the Monday morning quarterbacking that went on, that goes on with COVID, probably what bugs me more than anything, because it's like, easily now we can know exactly what we should have done and at this point, and when we could have gone back to school and when it made sense. But, we kind of learned it as we went. And boy, it was a time I hope we never have to go through again, because it almost feels like a year was flushed down the toilet.
But I would say, though, other districts, most 99.5% of districts went back months and months before JCPS did with no issues. And JCPS knew that.
But JCPS is transporting 74,000 students on buses.
I guess I don't know how it compared to other large urban districts. I'll give you that.
One thing you mentioned as like a consequence, to me, it's funny, is the fist bump.
Yeah.
Like, why did that catch? You can't. This is not a thing that you transfer hand to hand. It's a respiratory virus. I mean, am I closer to you if I shake your hand or if I bump my knuckles? I mean, that's just dumb. That's just dumb.
Well, they're telling us for a while, elbow, weren't they?
Yeah.
And it's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. People still fist pound all the time.
I mean, it's whatever. It's
that's why I'm a hugger, man. That's why I'm a hugger.
God, I'm gonna start fist bumping you every time I see you now.
I'm gonna fist bump,
weird.
And then I'm gonna hug you.
People fist bump me. I'm like, what are you doing?
It is weird.
It's like, what are you? Oh, we're doing that.
It still feels weird to me too.
Yeah.
Are y'all ready to hear some tangents?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I have 4 again. All right. So one thing, we started talking about mRNA vaccinations, and it kind of led me to a topic of that led me to like thinking, vaccines have been around forever. I'm doing a book on the Revolutionary War, and George Washington had to make a decision whether he wanted to bring in all his troops or hold off for weeks so they could all get inoculated with smallpox. And that bad thing, I think, was just scratch, and you actually got you caught the smallpox virus, a weak sample of it. So we're talking, 250 years ago, we had whole battalions of the army being held up in camps just to get inoculated. So science has been around for a long, long time. But think about from vaccines to some of the crazy things that we've thought medically over the years, from like bloodletting. We used to think that was the thing to do, right? Lobotomies. We used to give mercury as medicine. I mean, we thought that was the answer for some things. And then germ theory. It took forever just to develop any kind of germ theory or learning to wash your hands before anything between one patient and the other. What we would thought at the time.
Are you saying washing your hands is a good idea?
Even in the dirtiest of sinks, okay? But that's a good point. But so medical science, and also mostly going with not just only the history. You could talk about some of the things that have happened in the past that were crazy that we used to do, and then kind of what's happening in the future, because we did talk about mRNA, DNA, and how that's working. So medical science, really focusing on the crazy things we used to believe and that were the best practice at the time that are now just asinine, crazy ideas, to where it goes in the future. Medical science, the history and the future. 2, we talked briefly about urban versus rural. Big cities, like when you go to a Chicago, I'm not necessarily talking about a Louisville, we're like a mid here in Louisville, but North Dakota, Carson, North Dakota, take a Google Maps ride through that town. Let me tell you, it might be too small town for me, but there is a charm, and it may vary person to person. And I think Brad, I have a theory on your 6-foot stickers. When you live in a town with 356 people total population, it might take 3 decades for them to rub off, because all the ones I see are barely legible. They just haven't peeled them up yet. But anyway, so that's it. Urban versus rural. And that can be from living, values, politics, whatever you want to be. Urban versus rural. Number 3, we talked a long time tonight, but we just barely scratched the surface on cell phones. Now, you guys have done social media in the past, and it's been great. But how does cell phones affect us socially? How many times have you been at a family gathering and everybody's sitting around looking at their phones, or you're in a waiting room, everybody's looking at their phones? It is crazy when you look around some places to see the percentage of people that look like they're, hypnotized by their phones. What's this doing to our brain? Because think how much more content and information you take in. But do you process any more than you used to? Like, my brain doesn't hurt anymore. Like Scott said, great example. Who won the 2024 Masters? I don't know. If you go back, who won the 79 NCAA basketball? You used to have to think about it. And you would sit there and you would think about it. And you could feel your brain working.
Michigan State.
There you go, Michigan State. Who won it in 80? We all know that. Little Cardinals. So,
it was 79 because it was the Magic Bird.
And then Kentucky won it in 78.
Yeah.
I mean, because see, there we go. That's what I like, brain power stuff. But what's it doing? You don't have to think if you don't want to. It'll even do the processing for you. So we see more information, but do we process less? And where does that go? Where does it stop? Think about phones. We had a flip phone. You used it as a phone to talk to your wife or your friends. You could text on it, but you'd have to push the same button 3 times. Then it evolved to where now we have a screen. You can text normally. Then there was this app called the flashlight app, but that used to be an app, if you recall. Now it's included on the phones, and that's gone all the way now to basically we're holding an amazing computer with all the social apps, AI now built into my phone. Last night, I took a picture of my laundry room and said, give me 4 examples of organization and paint the walls. And I had a brand new laundry room in about 45 seconds and some ideas to do that. And I'm thinking, listening to this podcast, like, I could have done that on my own. It was not that hard. But instead, I took 45 seconds, put it into ChatGPT, and it gave me a nice little room. So, the dopamine you get, the instant dopamine effect you get looking at your phone, whether you're laughing, flipping through these things. And how hard is it sometimes to stop? I know it's so hard for kids to stop going from thing to thing. They're just flipping through their phone. It's not necessarily swiping right or left. It's swiping up now that really gets them going. So cell phones. And I'm talking about how is it affecting us now, but where does it stop? If you look at cell phones 10 years ago compared to what you can do on your cell phone now and how they connect with rings and watches, your homes, where does it stop? Where does it go next? And how does it affect our brains in 100 years?
Subcutaneous.
So cell phones. And the fourth one is civility. We talked about that. And, it's always a good debate. And so has it changed with Gen X, or is Scott just getting old? Basically, is the question we're asking there. Is it like, are we less civil with each other now than we used to be? Or is it a choice of, you got a cup full of joy and you have to give it to somebody, or can somebody just smack your hand and half of it flash out? I mean, what kind of world are we living in based on our experiences? And is civility something that we compute and we've changed in how we our calculation on computing that, or are we truly seeing some data and some experiences where civility has definitely changed in the last generation?
Well, first of all, it's data. First of all, it's data. Okay, that's how you say that word. But the other thing is, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think high school kids? You're in a high school every day. Do high school kids treat each other better now than they did 15 years ago? Because your answer to this might decide what I want to go with, because I got a little theory.
Man, I think it's a different kind of relationship. So I'm thinking about our challenged kids in school. This year we had one of our MSD kids, another student, took an image of this kid, had him kissing another same-sex kid, posted it on social media for 24 hours, and then it expired. And of course, we found out about it. And I'm talking to these students, and it's like, not only did you do something that's AI generated, that's a lie, you also, totally are bashing homosexuality and the kids that we have in the school, and this kid's special needs. And it did not register with this kid. She's like, it's just a joke. I said, and it's not even real, it's AI. And there was a disconnect between am I getting in trouble for something that everybody knows is a joke? And, mom knew it. When I called mom and told her, mom knew. She was, oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. She was up at the school in less than 5 minutes. Yeah. And, but the daughter, I think she finally just said things to get it over with, to make it, okay, I'm going to say some right things here. But I don't know if she ever connected what that social media post did, not only to the kids that have this student's condition and those parents and the parents of that kid's family. There was no way to connect past her layer of what she thought. And it was my first AI incident between with a student using AI and totally just not connecting any kind of empathy or empathetic meaning at all. So do they treat each other differently? Kids are still great, man. I mean, it's why I know I got another year in me to finish out 32. There are social media has changed things. Like, you guys have had a podcast on social media, and it makes it so easy to say things, this, that, and the other. So that has changed how it goes. But I really wonder, how is it desensitized? Because you see every crazy thing there is to see, whether it's something you should see with your own eyes, like, you know what I mean? To just fights and crazy things. So I think you're totally desensitized. And I think that has definitely had an effect on this generation.
Yeah, I'd say so. Well, all I know is I don't get anything but dunks and dances.
That's good. Let me run through them one more time. So we have like medical science, just the history of it. There's some crazy stuff. I did a quick Google search on it, and there's stacks of like crazy things we've done as a society over the centuries. 2, urban versus rural. The big cities, small towns, whatever parts of that you want to examine. Cell phones, like anything from apps to what it's doing with, past social media, which you guys have talked about well. But the dopamine effect socially with our brain, how will our brain look? Will our thumbs be longer and our brain be smaller in 150 years? I don't know. And then number 4, civility, just how we treat people. Has it changed? Is it changing, or is it more just us getting older? Are we changing our grading system on that? So there's number 4.
What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to go urban versus rural.
Yeah, that's probably my number 1. It's either that or civility for me. But I like urban versus rural. I think that gives I think it'll be interesting because, as Chris said, Louisville's not really a big city, but yet that's my definition. That's sort of my paradigm of what urban is.
Yeah.
So I've been to New York, I've been to LA. I mean, I've been to big cities, and I like and dislike things about them. But
yeah,
let's do. I like that.
Okay.
I like urban versus rural.
All right, we'll do urban versus rural. Well, thank everybody for listening. Make sure you subscribe or whatever you do for your favorite podcast, and give us a review if you don't mind.
That's right.
As long as it's a good one.
Give us a fist bump. Give us a fist bump.
Yeah.
See you guys next week.
Yeah.
See you.